So, Hogwarts Legacy came out. Naturally, a fan of fantasy and magic, I was going to try it. So, without further ado, let's jump into the magical world of Hogwarts. Upon opening the game, I rush through the beginning setup, changing what I need to in the options, and I connect accounts as I get rewards for doing so. It also says I'm going to join Hufflepuff, but there's another class that I want to join. A letter is shown addressing that school will start 1st of September. As an Australian, where school starts early February usually for us, I assume this is the normal start for Americans. Not really sure, honestly. And that our supplies have been collected already. Shame. I would have loved to see how the students get the supplies in this era, honestly. It also mentions that we can't use magic. However, there is a unique circumstance and we're going to be taught by Professor Eliza Fig to hone our spell casting before being escorted from London to Hogwarts Castle. So that's exciting. A few edits to my character and there we go. A lovely looking witch ready for what I assume is our first year. Although we look older than a typical first year. We start preparing for our trip to Hogwarts. Professor Fig is sorting our things into the back of a carriage and mentions that we quickly got used to using a second-hand wand, which surprises him. I'm a natural, what can I say? A random person then shows up, George Osric, who is very serious about wishing to discuss things in privacy and safety. He joins us on our trip to Hogwarts, and so we fly high into the sky, using what I assume are those birds you can't see unless you've seen death. Thestrals. On the carriage, it's brought up we're joining Hogwarts as a 5th year, without having attended prior years. That explains a lot. George and Professor Fig are astonished at this detail, and explains why Professor Fig is assigned to teach us magic, since the current 5th years would have more experience than us. George speaks highly of Fig too, and honestly both these characters seem lovely already. It also appears that George is a part of the Ministry, though I'm unsure if that'll be important. George then pulls out a newspaper with an article regarding someone called Ranrock and a goblin rebellion. Fig and George are distracted by it, as they consider it a significant threat, but we look out our window and see an ominous shadow in the clouds below. George then explains it was Fig's wife who alerted him to Ranrock's activities, and why he strongly sees him as a threat. Supposedly Fig's wife, Miriam, died months ago and sent a strange artifact to George. The artifact has nothing special to the eyes of Fig and George, other than being made out of goblin metal, but we notice a glow they can't see, and our touch opens it to reveal a key. Before we can touch the key inside, Fig takes it away, only for a bloody dragon to bite into the carriage and kill George in an instant. Having now seen death, we look outside the carriage and the Thestrals come into visibility, pulling the carriage. The dragon is hellbent on taking us down though, so we jump. The driver of the carriage apparates to safety, and Fig grabs us and the key, the latter causing us to teleport to a grimy, wet area in Scotland. Also, I turned the audio visualizer on when starting this game, assuming it would be like Minecraft, where words detailing different sounds would appear in like the bottom right of the screen. But it's literally a bloody circle in the middle of the screen, and it just takes out the immersion. It's stupid. We walk down the path to find ourselves in some mountains near some ruins above a storming ocean. The key, which was a port key, and if you don't know what those are, watch Goblet of Fire, clearly led us here for a reason. so Professor Fig and I agree to look around. On our way, we come across a wall of ice, and thus we learn how to cast Stupefy, a simple spell. A few hits to the wall destroys it easily. We make our way further, and Professor Fig repairs the broken bridge leading to the ruins. Across it, we find walls of carvings. I explore around, realizing there's a dodge and jump button which tells me exactly what I need to know about the combat and what it's going to be like. For the record, I've seen nothing about gameplay or trailers for this game, except for some really early ones. I just knew it was going to be like a main PlayStation 5 game. So I know nothing about this game, or the spells you learn, or the story. We come across a wall with an enchanted stone, a rune or something. However, we're the only ones who are able to see through the wall as if it was glass and into a room beyond it. Touching the enchanted rune, the area around us shifts, and me and Fig are suddenly in a room with a goblin banker fast asleep. Waking him up, he says we're in Gringotts Wizarding Bank, and that Miriam's key, the port key, is for a vault here, vault number 12. We're taken through the bank via a roller coaster ride, traversing through cave system after cave system, which would scare the shit out of me if I was riding it personally. We're told the vault we're going for is the deepest part of the bank. Wonderful. We stop by a guard who questions where we're going, and we notice he has a glow on him, similar to the key and the wall, except it's much darker and supposedly the same dark glow that was on the dragon's collar earlier. I have no reason to doubt my character, so I'll just believe them. The Goblin Banker says that the guard watches over the deepest areas, which rarely anyone comes to. He also mentions no one has visited Vault 12 for at least 100 years. We step into the vault, only for the Goblin Banker to explain his orders. If someone comes to Vault 12, he is to let them in and close the door, which he does, and we're immediately locked inside. It's here we learn a new spell, Revelio, which I think reveals the unseen. Seems that learning new spells involves a quick minigame to activate it, of which you use the left analog stick, for PlayStation 5 at least, to move your cursor and press the correct button input as you come to it, all while avoiding the red smoke that wishes you dead. How do I know it plans to kill you? The hard way, obviously.
I saw something.
Move a bit closer and try again.
Another rune on a door this time, and with a touch we're taking into a dark room which Professor Fig lights up with the spell Lumos. We come to a rune in the floor, and upon investigating it we become a little weak and the floor changes. We see a reflection of a statue under the floor, which Professor Fig can't see, but the actual statue is nowhere in sight. A quick Revelio reveals the statue above the floor for both our eyes. Professor Fig then teaches us Lumos, and we learn the reflection of the statue follows light sources. Aligning the statue's reflection to match the actual statue causes the statue to come to life. It summons duplicates, and we get into a serious fight. Professor Fig is a badass here, throwing statues into pillars and exploding them apart. It takes me a while to realize that I'm not meant to just survive, of which I was doing a decent job casting and dodging all over the place, but I'm meant to use my new spell Protego. Once I do that, I stay close to Professor Fig, but everything goes black. Using Lumos shows that I'm all by myself. Here, the wisps of magic guide me to another rune, but I notice using Revelio, there are chests that I can loot. Once having looted the 2 chests, I use the rune to find the same puzzle with the statue's reflection. 3 statues have to be aligned this time, and this leads into a 3 against 1 fight. But I'm a prodigy, so it's no problem at all. I'm then taught about stunning enemies with Protego for a Stupefy counterattack. This is going to be fun. It's shown that a yellow aura appears around our head when we're about to be attacked, which sort of takes the fun out of having to keep an eye on multiple enemies, but it's fine, and it helps make things simpler. I practice counterattacking and finish the enemies off, only having to use 1 health elixir before the world goes black and we gotta follow more wisps. Following the wisps again brings us to yet another room, of which brings a door into existence when investigated. The door reminds me of that gate in Order of the Phoenix, where those who die go into its embrace. We walk through it without question, however, and come to a large room with a basin in the middle which has a floating object above it. Professor Fig then appears as a door is opened, and he mentions that the basin is a pensieve, used for viewing memories. This object that has been floating above it had memories held within. After pouring the memories inside, we dunk our heads into the pensieve and watch the memories unfold. It appears that two men named Percival and Charles built this vault, or at least this room, to hide secrets only visible to those with our type of powers, being able to see traces of ancient magic. Coming out of the memory, it appears the goblin Ranrock has entered the vault somehow. The goblin banker is against him being here, but Ranrock kills him without a second thought. Professor Fig tries fighting Ranrock, but Ranrock appears to have some defense against magic. However, our fight triggers a defense to this room, and a giant golem comes out of the room. It comes out of the flooring, to be specific. It tries fighting Ranrock, all while we find another gate like before that leads out of this room. Honestly, I wish there'd been a bigger fight here. We literally only have 2 fights against statues, and there's nothing else. It's just the same fight, and it's like a tutorial for combat. Honestly, a losing battle against Ranrock, or even against the golem, say if Ranrock fled and the golem turned against us, that would have been awesome. Otherwise, Professor Fig and I use the gate, and it appears we've been taken to near Hogwarts. So, with a frightening start to our year now over, we finally make our way to our new school. It appears the sorting ceremony is already over, sadly, and Headmaster Black, who I believe has been mentioned in Harry Potter before, but I'm not really sure, is annoyed at Professor Fig for us being late, and refuses to hear about Ranrock or Goblin talk, as it's all just rumors to him. We leave Professor Fig, following Headmaster Black into the main hall of Hogwarts. It's just as pretty as in the movies. The other students of each of the 4 houses are eating away at their opening ceremony feast. I'm literally the only person here with colored hair too, it's funny. We're guided to a stool and the sorting hat is placed on our hat. I believe it's the same voice actor from the movies, but I'm not completely sure, but I love the voice of the sorting hat either way.
Ah, yes. A bit older than the others, aren't you? You come here with preferences and preconceptions. Certain expectations.
I'm looking forward to meeting my professors and learning all I can at Hogwarts.
Indeed. Hogwarts has much to offer a dedicated student. And what you learn in class will prepare you for challenges outside the classroom as well.
Sadly, I was messing around a little bit too much, and I accidentally skipped a bit of dialogue. And I didn't want to have to, risk having to do all of that again. So I just went with it. It basically said that I was going to join Hufflepuff, I'm assuming because of me connecting my accounts. But luckily, I do get an option to change my house. And so, what is the obvious choice here?
You belong in Slytherin!
Slytherin. That's what. Headmaster Black then addresses to everyone that Quidditch, but not flying in general, is banned for this year due to an accident that happened previously. It's a bit sad. I was hoping for Quidditch matches. I loved them in the Half-Blood Prince game I owned on the Nintendo Wii. Not sure if anyone else has played it, but hopefully there is still some type of fun with flying involved. One of the professors, the same one who wrote the letter you get at the start of the game before making your character, is named Weasley, which is interesting. She guides us to our common room, and the common room opens up via the word
Aspiration.
The way it reveals the door is so cool, honestly, with the snake's body moving. Stepping into the common room, we immediately fall asleep and a new day greets us. I use my codes to unlock my deluxe edition goodies, which I assume I can access later. At first, I get a bit lost in my room, until I see the obvious door, and so I walk out onto a cool walkway which connects multiple different rooms. This looks quite aesthetically pleasing to me, honestly. Like, the whole common room decor is just great. Naturally, when offered the chance, I go into my classmates' rooms and rob them. One of the rooms even has its own self-moving chess games in which black beats white immediately in 2 turns. It's the same match over and over, sadly. Would have been cool if it was different matches you can AFK and watch. Like, an AI just playing different chess matches or some shit. But it's still awesome to see. Exploring the common room a bit, there's not much to see. There's like 3 different sources of food you can have where your character eats from. Though there's no eating animation, sadly. You just smash the food into your teeth and it just dematerializes after like 2 bites. I can't even talk to any other student yet, so I just head towards the quest marker. We decide to make some introductions. First meeting Sebastian Sallow, who seems like an alright man. He questions us on how we escaped the dragon, at which my character, master at deception by the way, easily lets the conversation end by saying, the events are just a blur to me. I'm pretty convincing if I do say so myself. We get on the topic of spells that might not be taught at Hogwarts, but Sebastian says we'll talk later about it, so we move on. And he moves through me. Bloody fucking ghost. Next, we meet a girl named Imelda Reyes, who seems to know a thing about chess and has skills on a broom.
My skills on a broom are legendary.
Perhaps she'll teach us how to fly. I decide to ask her about flying, as it interests me more than chess, though it seems I can ask her about both. Lastly, a boy named Ominous Gaunt, and it's here I realize our common room is underwater, since 2 other students are looking for mermaids, according to Ominous himself, out of a window. Though a charming man, Ominous doesn't seem to offer much for now, other than seeming to be smart, so I'm not really sure what to think of him yet. Sebastian had the whole spells that aren't taught at Hogwarts thing, and bloody Imelda had the broom and chess skills, but Ominous just seems to be there. Hopefully he has something more to him later.
Is the new 5th year Slytherin in here? Professor Weasley's waiting for you just by the stairs.
We meet with Professor Weasley and she gives us what is basically Stanley's great big book of everything. And if anyone remembers that show, you're my favorites. The book literally explodes with pages. Then when it closes up, our character appears unfazed.
What is it?
Honestly, after our previous day, I'm not surprised. It appears this book will keep track of things we learn, so Professor Weasley plans to show us how it works. It's here I realize if you walk too far away, The game becomes a horror game for a brief second. I decided to test this, and I literally fail the mission for abandoning Professor Weasley. Okay then. She can literally see me. I'm literally just 3 meters away. Come on. Trying again, Revelio reveals a floating scroll, which gives us some lore on the statue. I expected a bit more than lore, but that's alright. I decided to check my inventory since I finally have access to it now. There's quite a bit of customization available when it comes to my clothes, including a silly little hat that I'm usually quite a fan of, but I like my hair in this game too much, so I'm not using it. It also seems we'll get access to a broom, fuck yeah, and a mount later on, which... The broom is very obvious from the girl earlier. However, if it wasn't for like my bonus items that I got with the game saying that I'll have a hippogriff mount and a thestral mount, then I wouldn't have known that there'd be mounts in this game. I would have loved to be surprised by it, you know? Like, come on, please. They could have just had the bonus items be like a package and it's a surprise, and the mount thing in the inventory could have been a question mark until you unlock it. Come on. You know? Either way, continuing to follow Professor Weasley, I noticed by pressing right on the D-pad, it lets you see every bloody spell you can unlock, or at least I think it's all the spells. I refuse to look at this. I actually want to be surprised. Bloody hell, why is this here? We then come to the fast travel method of the game, using flu flames, I mean. I remember this in the movie Chamber of Secrets and briefly in Deathly Hallows. And the movies made it seem like you needed to be in a large fireplace or similar, because you get turned to ash. But in this game, they're just small candles. I wonder how that works. We open the map and it's quite beautiful. The look of Hogwarts from this view makes it look lovely. However, my disappointment grows immaculately as we use the fast travel. And there's no animation. Screen goes black and we're just in the central hole without any warning. We don't see ourselves apparate into green smoke or even reappear. It's so lazy. Not only does using flu flames from a small candle make no sense to me, maybe it is sensible and I just don't know how, they don't show it off. I won't rant about this. Let's just move on. We're told that we have Charms class, where Professor Ronan will teach us spells and other useful things, as well as Defense Against the Dark Arts, where Professor Hackett will teach us to defend ourselves. I wonder if they'll follow the trope that the Dark Arts class is cursed. We're also expected to go to Hogsmeade since our supplies were destroyed and we need more. I decided to tease Professor Weasley with our adventure, how we explored some ruins, but we chose not to say any more. Funnily enough, Professor Fig comes by. He's showered in compliments by Professor Weasley due to his teachings of spellcasting to us.
Well, I'm just glad you both arrived in one piece. Perfectly good boats and carriages to Hogwarts, and you chose to fly in the path of a dragon.
I wouldn't say I chose the dragon's path, Professor. Rather unfortunately, it would seem that it chose us.
After that, Professor Fig asks why we mentioned ruins to Professor Weasley, but he doesn't lecture us on it, thankfully. He teaches us about our map and the field guide. Then we're finally able to head to classes. Professor Fig forces his way through a door, so I have to teach him how to open it like a normal person, sadly. He does try it out immediately though, so I'm proud of him. After a few flight of stairs, we come to the classroom, but I walk right past it out of curiosity. I find a puzzle on the wall, and as I'm trying to solve it, I hear the word Peeves. Now, Peeves is in the books, he's not in the movies, and he's in this game. He actually looks really good, and he's just as much of a troublemaker as I remember.
It was Hephaestus Gore.
It wasn't Boots and it wasn't Flack, but you're all in trouble with Professor Black!
I give a cat some pets, best time of my life, and after a few minutes of confusion on what each icon around the door means, I decide to brute force it, which works faster than expected. My reward? A silly hat. Now on to Charms class. Exploring the room, there's lots of writing on the walls. different names of spells. We meet a new student named Natsai Onai. She lets us sit next to her. Professor Ronan comes in afterwards, trying to see if any of us remember simple spells.
Welcome to Year 5 of Charms. Now, this will be a crucial year in your education on the art of charm work. But I am confident that we will take hold with the passion and rigor requisite of such a challenge. Right, now, everyone, please open your textbooks to page 517. But before we begin, can anyone here tell me the difference between the incantations of the color change and growth charms? Anyone? Anyone? I am afraid it is too late to study now.
But it seems like no one does. At least we have a reason. And so we learn Accio. And as the fast learner we are, we steal a textbook from Natsai with ease. Then, without even seeing if any of the other students managed to do it too, because they aren't the protagonist, I guess, we're applauded for our efforts and taken outside by the professor, where he builds a small structure for us to play a minigame on. Our goal? To use Accio on the balls and make sure not to make them fall, but also score some points. The mechanic takes a bit for me to learn, and I keep save scumming to learn it, but I end up getting the hang of it. The minigame then turns into a competition with Natsai. We're both equals, however, and get a perfect score each. The professor pretends he saw, but he was actually just looking off the whole time, like, what the hell? He then changes the field, adding in moving obstacles to make it more entertaining. They clearly forget who they're dealing with, however, as I get yet another perfect score like the prodigy I am. Real talk though, I save scummed like 5 times, but that's not important. I was just hell-bent on getting a perfect score. Natsai has a talk to us about how she had it rough when she first got to Hogwarts, which we can relate with. Natsai also mentions Ugado, the largest wizarding school, even when compared to Hogwarts, and how she's from there. Ugado, see, if I'm pronouncing it right, if I'm not, I'm sorry. It seems to be part of a mountain high off the ground. The people at Ugado don't use wands, surprisingly. Which was actually shown at the start of the game when Professor Fig Accio'd the portkey to him. He was using his hand and not a wand.
You can cast spells without a wand.
Oh yes. I find wandless magic to be much more instinctive. Not to mention quite convenient if one is without their wand. I must admit, however, that I am growing quite fond of using a wand. It seems very dramatic.
I overhear Sebastian and Ominous, the former asking if Accio works on humans, at which Ominous says it'd work on their clothes but not the person themselves. As they walk away, Ominous has his wand out and it's glowing red at the tip. I'm not really sure what he's doing or if it's important, but I kinda like to think he's planning to test that theory. Professor Ronan wants to see us. He's impressed with us, and finds Natsai to be great, though sadly distracted. He goes on to say we should expect to hear of an assignment from him, which I'm assuming is going to be side quests to learn new spells. Having one more look around, one of the students mentions that their brother would use Accio a lot after learning it, and that utensils would fly around the house because of it. I'm now realizing that using Accio on pointed-ended items is very dangerous, as the item is basically traveling to you with high velocity, expecting you to catch and stop it. I'm assuming that's how Accio works. I'm assuming it doesn't just slow down once it meets its target. Upon exiting the Charms classroom, a girl named Samantha Dale greets us. She compliments us on our acts in Charms class, then leaves to do some homework. A quick teleport, and I head to the Defense Against the Dark Arts class. On the way, I come across another guide page about an augury, an Irish phoenix, that foretold coming rain and whose mournful cry was once believed to foretell death. Creepy. At the classroom, it looks the same as in the movies pretty much. We immediately see 2 students fighting at it. The head of a fossil that was held above us breaks and almost hits a student, but Professor Hackett comes in with the spell Levioso and saves him.
It was a token from the Great Poacher Raid of 1878. No doubt you've heard of it. Now, You may be asking yourself how an old woman like me single-handedly took out the largest poacher ring in eastern Wales and lived to boast about it. Knowledge. To the wise, age matters very little. Today we will review a spell that has saved me from death at the hands of dark wizards more times than I care to remember. Levioso.
Levioso? A levitation charm?
Levioso! A surprised opponent is a weak opponent. Care to defend yourself, Master Pruitt? No? One thing I've learned as an unspeakable is the value of simplicity, especially in the heat of battle.
Just her personality alone has me liking her. The fossil is prepared, repaired, and we are taught Levioso, a basic levitating spell, though I assume it's different from Wingardium Leviosa.
Leviosa.
Naturally, just like in the first movie, we tested on feathers. But then Professor Hackett pulls out a human-sized dummy. Wouldn't, after you first learn a spell, practicing on big objects almost immediately be bad? Like, wasn't that the whole reason they practiced on feathers to begin with? Gameplay-wise, the trick is that an enemy caught in Leviosa's grasps are weak because they can't fight back. We are then tested against an actual person, Sebastian Sallow, and I completely kick his ass, sending him flying off the stage, which defaults to my win.
Good form.
I know.
Professor Hackett has a talk with us directly, and that was the class. It was pretty fun, but felt so much shorter than Charm's class. Talking to Sebastian, he found us to be as good as an expert, naturally because we have dueled against very offensive statues before, but we hide that detail. He mentions an exclusive and unsanctioned dueling club, which gets our attention easily. With both classes done, I decided to look around and unlock as many fast travel points as I can. I run into Nearly Headless Nick on the way. I hope I didn't confuse him with another ghost, but I feel like that's who he is. And I quickly come across another guide page. This one is about a young orphan wizard named Ilias, who was famous for saving an entire village from an army of Dementors, as well as a dark wizard named Raxidian. How did he do this? He conjured a Patronus that appeared as a mouse. I notice a couple of chests in a room, but it's locked, and while checking the door, I get insulted by a sassy statue on the wall.
If someone gets struck by a cursed broom, we do hope it's you.
Such a friendly place. I then come into the main courtyard of the school. It looks pretty close to the version in the movies, although I assume it's different because this is the past. A statue appears to be broken. I wonder if that's caused of troublemakers or not, and if it'll be relevant. On another statue, I test Accio. Nothing. I then test Levioso, and it rewards me with a field page. Nice! Walking out of the courtyard, I come across a big puzzle door again. This time, however, after talking to a friend IRL, I understand the puzzle better. The icons around the door do mean numbers, which is what I originally thought, but it's 0 to 9 with the owl being 0, and not starting from 1 like I assumed. Before doing the puzzle though, I see a floating page. I've seen some before, and Accio manages to get it into my hand. Back to the puzzle, the symbol above 21 is a 2, so adding 11 makes that 13, meaning we need an 8. The spider. The two symbols around the 17 mean 5 and 9, so that's 14, meaning we need a 3, the three-headed serpent. It works, and I'm rewarded with a pair of burgundy robes, which are basically the same as I'm wearing now, but red, and a book stand. Though I don't know how this is beneficial yet. The menu says it can be conjured in the Room of Requirement, which is yet another thing the game is spoiling for me. While exploring the school a bit, I overhear some conversation between two students. The dialogue is so odd though. They don't share the same conversation. Every response is a different topic. Here's some examples.
All of my relatives work at the ministry. Every one of them. I suppose I'll probably be a higher up there one day. Let's just stay in with me.
I tried a knee reversal hex on that small Hufflepuff. I found it rather boring, although, in all fairness, it only partially worked, which did look awfully strange.
When I fell off my broom and broke 6 bones, they said they'd never seen Skelegro work so fast.
I can't believe she's seen a Thestral. And why should I be impressed anyway? Anyone can find a dead person to look at. She's a little liar.
I reach a dead end and decide to go back, which is when I come across Lenora Everley, who seems to have a side quest for me. She's curious about the empty frames throughout the school, and I have been too, honestly. It seems Lumos causes a reaction. It makes the frame show an image of the school. Going to the area it shows, then using Lumos, has a butterfly follow me. And when deactivating Lumos so it leaves me and goes into the frame, it reveals a field page.
I should tell Lenora that I solved the puzzle of that empty frame.
You have a knack for solving riddles. Natty's good at that too. So is Meat, although he does tend to over-explain. Well, I'm glad someone figured it out.
I head up some stairs and come to the divination tower. Then, heading further up, a ladder falls down, and climbing up that brings me to what I assume is a teacher's study. I find another field guide here about Pelmisti models. The pattern you read on them means different things based on the angle on which it's read at, either foretelling a considerable lifeline or a possible demise in the next fortnight. No in-betweens, supposedly. Otherwise, that's going to be all for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to be trying my best to make videos like this more often. I tried my best with the Pokemon Arceus game last year. However, maybe it's just Nuzlocke in general, but they were a little stressful. Like, trying to continue Arceus was just stressing me out, and it's why I took a whole year without doing much. I have clips of part 2 of that series recorded, but I don't think I'm going to use them for a while. Series might come back at some point, I don't know. Otherwise, I'm pretty enjoying this game. I do want to make it clear that I do know how controversial this game is because of things going on. I won't elaborate. But I'm hoping that me and anyone who watches this video and anyone in the comments can just enjoy themselves as much as they can. Thank you for watching.